Hello there, I'm JB Gill.
And I'm Louise Burke.
Today we're mixing it up.
We are indeed. We are indeed. We are going to draw from our parenting expertise, aren't we, JB Gill?
Yes, we are.
And we are going to talk about the things we wish we'd known as parents before actually experiencing those big milestones in parenting, such as...
Drum roll, please.
The school summer holidays,
The school
otherwise known
summer
as 6
holidays.
weeks of utter and sheer panic.
Honestly, where do we start? Because for me, I don't want to go back, because when I was growing up, the summer holidays were brilliant. I remember having great
Same.
experiences.
And it felt like they lasted forever. Like there was no end to them.
Yeah.
Like it just kept going.
And I enjoyed that, I think, as a child.
Yeah.
I think that is the one thing that fills a lot of parents with dread, is the fact that they
sure.
seem like they go on forever.
Yeah.
But you're on the opposite end of it.
Yeah. Well, I've sort of got a little bit of a sort of contradictory opinion about school summer holidays, because at the start I'm like, I've got that 6 weeks of school holidays, kids are at home 6 weeks in my head, this voice here.
Yeah.
But then actually when I start like mapping certain things out, and because I have to, because both of us work in our house, before I know it, the 6 week, I'm running out of weeks.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say that out loud to my children particularly, but it's just sometimes it's then fitting it all in becomes a problem rather than the actual 6 weeks, which seems utterly mad.
It's really weird.
But the other thing I think, so my thing I'd say to a parent that's experiencing school summer holidays for the first time, I would say don't panic, because although 6 weeks sounds like a lot, it does fly by. I think it does. And also with that, I would say don't overschedule things too much, because I think, especially if you're both working, you go into like military overdrive, color code calendar, working out the weeks, trying to like make sure they're busy, make sure they're entertained. And sometimes, and I know you agree with me on this, sometimes kids just need to knock about a bit, just chill.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what I love so much about my childhood and my summer holidays, is the fact that it was unscripted. It was just free. It was open. And, both my parents are working. So, not too dissimilar to a lot of families that will be listening to this and watching this. They're both working and wondering, okay, what do I do? And let's be honest, like our children spend a great deal of time throughout the working week
in a
at school,
and
it's structured. And even after school, if they've got this club or that club, they're doing all the clubs, and then they've got to be in bed at this time, and then they're up again, and then on the weekend it's pretty much more of the same for a lot of families. And I think just being able to have that downtime and not, I think the panic is that they're so used to that structure. We've got to continue that structure. Yeah. And I've definitely done that, trying to get them into kids' clubs and camps and all that sort of stuff.
Because also, let's face it, if you are working, you need some sort of childcare, right?
Absolutely.
And you need some sort of childcare that's not going to cost the earth.
Yeah.
And so I think when we say like, oh, the kids just need to chill out, we're talking more of those older school age kids, particularly because they can sort of look after themselves whilst watching a movie more than like a preschooler,
of course,
or a young one. But if you can get, what I'm a big believer of is unpaid paternity leave.
Yes.
Or unpaid parental leave, sorry, not paternity leave. And I did that. God, I forget, last year, the time flies, last year or the year before. Yes, it's unpaid, but actually I worked out the cost of putting 3 kids through childcare, and that was pretty pricey.
Yeah.
And the sort of logistics that went with it, the dropping off, the picking up, the sort of pulling in the favours with other parents for like play dates afterwards to make up the time. And actually to take that unpaid leave for a week and spend some time and not worry about work and not try and like crowbar things into the week and giving them like time just to chill, it actually worked out quite well. And every parent is entitled to parental leave. Yeah. Unpaid parental leave.
Yeah, and that is a good point, because I think for me, for instance, in terms of work, it's sporadic. So I don't have that sort of structure where I I can request leave. However, I think another thing that I would definitely encourage parents to do, perhaps you don't have as much of a structure in terms of their working week or whatever, is to take the kids with you. Dare I say it? Which I know for a lot of parents, are just like, no, that's the last thing I want to do. Never. But I do know, like my sister-in-law, for instance, she works as a real estate agent. So she has a relatively structured job. She works on the weekend, so on. But she actually is allowed to take her daughter with her.
And the kids love it?
And she loves it. Of course she loves it. She's running. Shouldn't give away too much. But yeah, she's obviously getting to experience something. She's seeing a bit of what mummy does.
Give them a stack of Post-its and a couple of highlighter pens and they're
good to go. Do you know what I mean? And I think actually, depending on the job, I guess, and whether it's actually feasible to do so. I'm not suggesting that the kids come and camp out in the office or whatever. But yeah, if it's possible, I think it's just a unique experience that I'm pretty sure most children will remember, if they're able to be in that environment, especially if they're older as well.
Yeah.
And you just get, it's a different environment, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of parents worry about, is sort of like the monotony of, actually, I've not organised some, I've not done this. Oh, some blah blah's doing this camp and that, whatever. So
should I be? Guilt as well that inevitably comes in, doesn't it? So talking of like useful tips for like activities, I know one of my favourites in the summer is just switching up the kids' rooms a bit. Yes. And I'm not saying like involving lots of money or lots of spending, but we've done things where, you can stretch this out for a week-long project, honestly. But you can like gather up all the old toys. You can do a little market stall outside the house. They can raise some funds. The older one, my teen, will stick things on Vinted. I say she can only buy new things until she's raised some cash from the old things. They can, I don't know whether you trust your kid with a paintbrush. I don't know. But like rearrange their posters on their wall.
Yeah.
There's things you can do. And I think they're invested in that because it's their space. Yeah. So that's always been quite a winner for me to do in summer holidays, is like switch up their bedrooms a little bit.
Yeah.
And they all sort of get involved with each other's rooms as well, which is quite fun.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think certainly as the children get older, like you say, they're much more invested in their own space and their own stuff and what that looks like. And I think, let's be honest, the children grow so quickly. I don't know about yours, but honestly, you put Kiara in a dress and then not even 3 months later, it's like way too short. Or, you put Ace in a pair of shoes and then all of a sudden every single pair of shoes needs to be changed.
Yeah.
Which of course comes with its own sort of added cost. But like you say, just going through their stuff and then actually seeing what they need rather than...
they have so much stuff.
Do you know what I mean?
So much stuff. A pain point, let's be honest, of school holidays, I would admit to, is food.
Yes, food. Definitely.
Because obviously when they're at school, if they're either at a breakfast club or breakfast on the go or lunch at school, now it's gone from 1 meal a day in the week to 3 meals a day and endless snacks. Yeah. How do you deal with that?
Well, we've obviously discussed this on the podcast, haven't we? And we talked about the fact that, you can't put that pressure on yourself. I think the frustration is that, like you say, you've got the kids at home and they've gone from having 1 meal maybe a day, or that you have to sort of like, govern
come up with
to then potentially 3. And even if you're not at home, obviously you've kind of got to cover it.
Yeah. And the shopping and buying the food.
You can't expect someone else to cover it for you. But I think, well, for me, I think we kind of just take things down a notch. Like my kids are quite, like, they love their sleep, so we're quite lucky in that respect. And so we don't
late
press have to have breakfast, have to have lunch, have to have dinner. That said, of course, Ace does his football, and so he's growing. So we do have to be a little bit mindful of how much he's eating, so that he's still growing, and all of that sort of stuff. Although his load is a lot less, and I think that's another thing to bear in mind. We can get technical, and I'm definitely no expert, but actually they're doing a lot less in the summer than they are when they're at school.
Yeah.
So technically...
And maybe they're up for less hours, like you say, if they're lying in as well.
Yeah, so I think just not feeling that pressure with what you're doing, but then also, again, just the fact that they're winding down and they're having a bit of a sort of break, feel free to do the same, I would say. And we genuinely don't put as much pressure on what we're trying to make.
So like the other night, we were like, guys... We're going to get pizza and we're going to eat it in front of the TV.
Exactly.
We're just going to stick the pizza box on the coffee table, watch the footy and eat some pizza. It's like, you got to cut some corners and cut yourself some slack as well.
And they love it as well.
Yeah.
I think that for me it's like that added, it's that treat. They know that sort of thing happens in the holidays, doesn't happen midweek, sort of in everyday life.
Well, no, they were literally like, what?
Yeah, exactly. Can we?
Because I'm quite sort of strict with my meals. I like to eat them on a kitchen table, on a dinner table.
And then just do, for me, I'm like, do the big stuff. Do the stuff like lasagna that they can actually help cooking.
I was going to say that because I know you're big on this, aren't you, with your kids? And I guess it gives a little bit of time if you can make your hours work slightly different in the summer holidays. I don't know, it depends on the work you do.
Yeah.
But it's an opportunity to get them involved because you're not taking them to gymnastics practice, cricket practice, whatever, and you've got a time to teach them to do like something simple like tomato pasta, and they can cook dinner one night.
Yeah, 100%. And like you say, it's also just sort of that exchange between the two of you.
Yeah.
Like for me, getting the kids involved with that, not only do they think it's fun, but you're also, especially if you do something like lasagna or like you say, tomato pasta, spaghetti bolognese, whatever it is, something firstly that's super simple, but you can also put in the freezer and have it another night that week or the next day, or do you know what I mean? Effectively batch cooking without sort of like the super prep. And I remember growing up, Saturdays and Sundays were kind of the day, like in everyday life, sort of like week by week, those were the days to do that. And, and again, if you do have a sort of very demanding job and you don't get that week, take that time on the weekend when you haven't got the clubs now because you're in a bit of a break, and you actually say, do you know what, Saturday afternoon, we're going to go to shop, going to get a few bits, and we're going to make 2 or 3 things that you can then use later in the week.
So Jay, tell me, when it comes to summer holidays, because you speak so fondly of your summer holidays when you were a kid, what is the thing in those school summer holidays which you love doing with either both your kids or as a family or separately? What's something that you really cherish?
For me, I think it's all about that quality time. And for me personally, because work can be quite demanding and I travel quite a bit, it's just literally, it could be in the garden with Ace or Kiara doing whatever. But one thing that I'm trying to do more of is something that I did as a child, and that's go sightseeing.
Right.
In London. Now, obviously, not everyone lives in London that's listening to this, but for me, I remember, I'd had family come over from the Caribbean, for instance, and, they'd come and they'd be here for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever. And, they would tend to stay with us, and then we'd go out and about and they'd go to places like Kew Gardens or wherever. And don't get me wrong, London is pricey at the best of times. I was going to say,
there's a lot, we're not short of sightseeing places, are they? But like, we're a family of 5 and it can cost us close to 200 quid.
It's a lot.
The 5 of us are going somewhere. It's like crazy.
But there are things that you can do that are either very cheap.
Yeah, or even just going to Hyde Park.
Yeah, you can go to a museum.
Yeah, in a museum.
And those are things, Science Museum does cost to get into, but I go with the kids.
There's parts where you can go for free.
Absolutely. And they absolutely love it. Yeah. And it's just, of course, you got to get into London depending on where you live, but it's something that you can do. You can make a treat of it. And again, it's just, for me, it sticks in their memory, even though they might not particularly appreciate walking from one part of London to the next or whatever. But you can jump on the bus.
On Saturday, we walked through town. I walked with my eldest, and we never walk through like central London and just look up as well and look at buildings, look at posters, look at billboards, look at shop windows, all that sort of stuff. And it's just there around you. And you realise like what a brilliant city and how creative it is as well.
Yeah.
Without having to necessarily go to a museum or an art gallery. Or we just went actually in the gift shop of the art museum actually.
But just iconic stuff like, go to Harrods. I'll be honest, we never shop in Harrods. We know Harrods is there. Like, obviously, we've been to Harrods before.
Who does shop in Harrods? I don't know.
Well, do you know what I mean? It's so iconic and you can literally just go and walk around. You don't even have to shop. No. It's just sort of the fun. And something like that I think is really, really special. And it's, a journey into London and back again. You can do it in a couple of hours. If you want to make a treat of it, you could obviously go for a meal afterwards or something. But, it's something that I remember. Yeah. And again, we didn't come from a great deal of, money. So it was never a case of, just going to London for the day and have a great time. It was, just to experience it.
Look, no one likes forking out for that day trip. And then the day trip, everyone's in tears, having meltdowns, and you've got soiled, leaking nappies and all that, and you get home in a fouler mood than the day you left.
Yeah.
And I would honestly say, hands up, and I'm not saying this to be like smug mum or anything, but like I'd say probably the best days I've had during the summer holidays and when we've had down days at home.
Yeah.
Where we've just not really had a plan, and we've done like your picnic in the garden, rather than like sitting
I was going to say, what do your down days look like?
Yeah, just like picnic in the garden, or suddenly like tackling sometimes, I don't know about you, but like my kids can rediscover a toy box that's been pushed into the corner of a bedroom, even from years ago with like baby toys, but they're like rediscovering toys and like remembering things. And sometimes, it's quite easy, and you watch a little bit of a movie or something, and before you know it, day's done.
Yeah. Exactly. And the thing for me as well is just keeping the learning ticking over. So just getting a new book.
Oh,
go
you
and
are
get
hardcore.
a book. No, but do you know what? It's fun, and it's the alternative. A lot of parents will be like, "Oh, my days, they're on their screens because I don't know what to do."
It's true. I've got nothing
but
against
actually, if you can
books,
get out to a bookshop, it's £7 or £8, I think, for most books for kids.
Yeah.
They can pick the one they want, and then actually you just buy yourself a bit of time that they want. It's not like you're making them rewind the willows or whatever.
They're choosing and discovering something. What very quickly before we wrap this up, what I'm doing with my older one this summer is she's actually earning a bit of money.
Yeah.
So she's going to do a little bit of dog walking or a little bit of like looking after the small kids next door.
Yeah.
And then she can, because then she can go and buy that £7 book, because she goes through books at the moment like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it does all tot up each time. So I'm like, go out, earn a few pennies, and then you've got some spending money to do whatever you want to do. Because they're at an age when they're in those sort of teens, where you can give them a bit more freedom as well. And they can go up to the shops by themselves. Yes. You're not sort of carting them around the whole time. So that does switch things up a bit as well.
Yeah, and then they're ready for school.
I know, then it starts all over again. And then you go, where did those 6 weeks go?
Flown by.
Marvellous. I hope you found that useful. There were some useful tips there for you to get you through the summer holidays.
Definitely. I certainly enjoyed it. And I'll definitely be putting some of those tips to good use very, very soon.
We can smash this.